when she got to Substack, she went from 0 to 12,000 subscribers.
Wow.
And all those subscribers pay usually $7.50 to $12 a month. Now, you don't have that feature on Medium at all. So it's an opportunity to make more money, obviously, than Medium.
Yeah.
And you encourage these people and they just come along. And if you've got some niche, some specialty, and then when you can combine that with stories on how that will change your circumstance, it's an amazing, amazing return. And she's done a great job with doing that.
Today, you learn from a serial entrepreneur the power of story, but more so, where are there opportunities in the world of storytelling? I am very fortunate to have once again on the Story Warrior podcast, Mr. Dr. Rawson of Henderson, Nevada. And he's the founder and CEO of TinyTales Land. Mr. Rawson, good morning. How are you doing this day?
I'm doing well, thank you, and thanks for having me again. I appreciate it. I thought maybe I'd done so poorly the last time you didn't want to have me back.
On the contrary, you did so well that we have to invite you back and back and back again. And we're starting this special category that talks about opportunity finder, opportunities for storytellers. And me being a humble storyteller, story warrior, who is on the move, looking for people who can tell and articulate stories, I could not resist coming back to you to say, with all your experience, with all the years that you've been out there working in different areas, are there some opportunities for new or emerging storytellers to look around and leverage for their own personal growth or personal development? What are the opportunities in the area of storytelling?
Well, they're kind of all over the place. Let me begin with a company called Medium.com. Medium has, I don't know, must be 20 million writers at least on Medium. It only costs $5 to get on there, but you can tell your story. You never know where your story is going to land. And let me go back to this idea that if you do something and you say something and only one person, just one person is affected, then it was worthwhile. And so that's kind of what you have to look at with Medium. They have a clap system. So, if you like the story, you clap. And if you want to comment, you can comment. And so maximum number of claps is 50. Well, I've had stories that have done several thousand. I've had stories that did 200,
Wow.
all over the place. So it just depends. There are some people out there that get like 30,000 people.
No kidding.
But there's also Barack Obama's on there. Tony Robbins is on there. There's a lot of well-known people that are on that platform telling stories, talking about things that are important to them. We have used that at TinyTales Land to tell our 100-word stories, and we have a whole publication dedicated to just that. So if people want to read 100-word stories, they can go to our publication, and the Medium is divided into publications. They can go to our publication and they can read, I don't know, there must be 400 plus stories out there that they can read. It's got a graphic and a story.
Wow.
Then you can.
Okay, go ahead. I did not know about Medium. I barely heard about it.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, and it's $5. I mean, it's not like it's a big thing. So, and you can push in as many stories as you want. I limited my writing to two particular publications: my own, which is Tiny Tales, and the other is Dancing Elephant Press. And Gabriella Kuroshi, Dr. Gabriella Kuroshi is the editor. And she's been a longtime friend and somebody that I believe in. And she's got a natural, earthy way of approaching life. And she believes she's a story warrior herself. She was, she's come a long way. She wasn't born in this country, and she's come all the way to garnering her PhD, and she's also a PA in the healthcare system.
Wow.
She's an interesting person, and she's an artist. Oh my gosh, she is an artist extraordinaire. I have a number of her paintings. Anyway, getting back to Medium. So with Medium, you can write a story about how a certain thing affected you in your life. You can write a story about your belief system on something in particular. I recall that I wrote a story at one time about raising children and the effects of what you do with the children and the long-term effects, because now at this age, I have the benefit of looking back and seeing what happened when they were little, what happened in their intermediate life. And now my oldest child is 57 and my youngest is 43. So they, with the exception of my oldest son, they all have children and grandchildren. And so it's becoming quite a big family.
Yeah.
Anyway, those stories can be put on Medium and very inexpensively. Essentially, the requirements are minimal, and you should look that up. So that's one method. Okay.
Very interesting. Very
The
interesting.
next method that has arrived just not very long ago, I think maybe 3 years, is Substack. Substack was born out of the need for many writers to get away from Medium. Medium didn't give them much control. There wasn't much compensation. And it was because you can be compensated for your stories on Medium as well.
Okay.
Don't get too excited. I made 34 cents last month, so it's not a big deal. Okay.
But you get the credit, you get credit, you get reshared, you get the world to know about you and read your ideas.
Absolutely. I just had somebody comment on a story this morning that I wrote called AI Will Be Top of Mind in 2024. And I wrote that in December of 2023. And her question was, why aren't we continuing this? AI is still growing and people are still wondering what's going to happen. Yes. And it turned out that myself and a few other authors, we wrote a book about AI, and that was all generated from that. And then I served as the spearhead, if you will, of a momentum about AI and how AI should be used. Because there's some rules, like every tool, there's certain rules that you use it. But getting on to publications, let's move from Medium to Substack. Substack is a little different. You can do a lot of things with that you cannot do with Medium. For example, you can do live broadcasts, you can do podcasts, you can do blogs, you can do just regular posts, and they all go out to your mailing list. So whatever you put in my particular case, I've got about 2,300 names, I think, that it goes out to. So you can do that. We've just created, as you know, Your Character Counts, which focuses on character, integrity, and your credibility, CIC. And character is at the forefront because without character, nothing else works.
Yes.
So we started a movement with that, and we've just started publishing that on Substack. So there's a way to reach a lot of people, and they also have a notes feature, which is kind of interesting. And you can put movies up there, you can put audio files up there. There's a lot of things you can do. But if you've got a story to tell, let's just talk for a minute about stories, because if you don't have a story, then what do you care where it's going to go?
Yeah.
Most people have stories and they don't understand that they do have stories. let me give you a specific circumstance. This is not something that maybe your listeners will want to hear, but when I was a young boy, before we became homeless, we were a regular family living on a farm, and my mother happened to be what you might call a princess. She was raised not to do any chores, not to learn how to do anything, cook, nothing. So she also didn't know how to raise kids. She was an only child, and when I came along, I wasn't exactly. I wouldn't call me an easy child. I had too much curiosity going on. So there were plenty of beatings when my father wasn't around to go around, and as other kids came along, if they did something wrong, well, it must have been my fault, and so that's it. So there's also a story about kicking the cat. Have you ever heard that story?
No.
So the story works like this. You're at work, somebody just lays a new thing on you and you're just frustrated. Your frustration level's right up here. You've already got these other deadlines. Somebody put something else on you and it's just like another thing on your plate, on your plate, on your plate. And you go home and you're absolutely overwhelmed. And somebody comes to you and says, hey, Dad, can we go out and do whatever? And first thing he does is go, are you kidding me? Are you serious right now? I'm not doing that. And he's kicking the cat. He picked something that he can just kick and get upset with that's not going to hurt anything. And this is called the cat. So I looked at that story from my own youth and I said, yeah, there's a life lesson there. When I come home and I am frustrated, not to be kicking the cat. Story from my youth, young marriage. We were probably married 10 years at this point. I was traveling the world and I would leave on Monday morning and come back on Friday as much as I could. And when I came in, when I started doing this, I'd come home and I had this preconceived idea. Oh my gosh, my wife's going to have the house all cleaned. The kids are all going to be sparkling. We're going to have a good time going out to dinner, and the kids will be fed and we'll be ready to go. The babysitter will arrive and all that. And that was my preconceived idea. Reality struck when I hit the front door and I opened the door and she goes, "Thank God you're here." And I said, "What's going on?" She says, "Well, I haven't been able to get the kids dressed yet, and I'm not dressed, and I haven't been able to feed them yet, and this kid is just driving me frigging nuts, and this kid's doing this, and this kid's doing that." And I went, "Holy cow, the place is chaos. It's just awful. It's not like I preconceived, right?"
Welcome to real world. Yep.
Yeah. So the story lesson there is, rather than sitting there on your way home thinking, oh, it's going to be like this and it's going to be so wonderful and so great, put yourself in the other person's shoes and ask, what are they going to be struggling with?
Yeah.
Tell you what, I'm going to call ahead and just find out what's going on. So when I learned that when I hit the airport and I got into my car, first thing I did when we had cell phones was, before that I'd used pay phones, but when we had cell phones, I'd call my wife and I'd say, "So, how's it going?" "Oh," and she just light into this whole thing. And I'd say, "So, are we going out tonight or is it just too disruptive?" Then she would express her opinion and that was fine. And I had to get used to it because that was her world and I was stepping back into her world. My world would be perfectly organized, but her world was not.
Yeah.
There's a story and there's a lesson in that story. That's important. And that's kind of what stories are, no matter what they are, whether they're about life and how you live it, or about health, or about how you treat others, or just about anything. And a good story is just, this happened, this was a resolution. This is what I learned from it.
Yep.
Those are essentially the three components.
Absolutely.
So Substack gives you the opportunity to do that in so many different ways. And then beyond Substack, and I think the membership there is, I think it's maybe $8 a month, something like that. It's not.
What is the total number of people on Substack?
What's that?
How many people are on Substack? Because you mentioned for.
Oh, I'm
Medium.
not exactly sure. It's not anything like Medium yet, but I'll bet there's at least 5+ million people on Substack. I joined them when they had less than 1 million.
Wow. So it's growing rapidly. And it's a new frontier that storytellers can go and experiment with their stories. How about the payment from Substack? Which is better, Substack or Medium?
Well, I haven't done anything to secure payment from Substack, so I don't really know. I didn't go on Substack to do that. I had a message that I wanted to get out to people, and I didn't care whether they paid me for it or not. So I couldn't say, but I know that some people are doing quite well. There's one particular woman out there whose name escapes me right at the minute. Her name is God. Her last name is God. I know that's
G-O-D?
G-O-D.
Wow, that's a big one. That's a big one.
That's a big one. And when she got to Substack, she went from 0 to 12,000 subscribers.
Wow.
And all those subscribers pay usually $7.50 to $12 a month. Now, you don't have that feature on Medium at all. So it's an opportunity to make more money, obviously, than Medium. Yeah. And you encourage these people, and they just come along. And if you've got some niche, some specialty, and then when you can combine that with stories on how that will change your circumstance, it's an amazing return. And she's done a great job with doing that. You know, she's a marketing person beyond imagination. She's really good. She's young. She's probably in her early 30s. Yeah. And she just is right on top of it. And she shares with people, you know, consider this and do this. And here's what happens when you do this. And then she shares some of her user stories. And so there's a lot of opportunities to learn through stories. So that's what you experience on Substack. Now, some of the other places you can share a story, you can go to Facebook. Facebook has a new thing, tell your story, and it only lasts for a day, but you put up a story for the day. Yep. You know, we went fishing and we caught 2 fish. Yep. If that's your story, that's your story. If you wanted to put something up there, today I learned that if I do this, this happens. That's a story. Right?
Yep.
You can put anything you want up there, stupid stuff or stuff that really help people. It's totally up to you. It depends on your morals, depends on your character, depends on what you want to accomplish in life.
And your ability to write or to share.
Yep.
What about TinyTales Land? Because I know you started TinyTales from a small idea to now it's a very big idea. Talk to us about that. As you know, you've talked about Medium, you've talked about Substack. Let's conclude now with TinyTales Land. What is TinyTales Land all about? What kind of stories are you sharing? And why is this so important as one of the methods that future storytellers can use to make money or to get their name out there?
Well, it's an interesting story. I'll give the backstory. We were writing a thing called Drabbles. And a drabble, for those of you who don't know, is a 100-word story. Exactly 100 words. So you have to have a story, you have to have a solution, and you have to have an end. So we belong to my co-founder and myself, Rick Allen. We belong to a particular publication where every day she would give out a key word. So the key word might be train, or fast moving train, or waterfall, or state house, or something stupid. And we had to write a 100-word story and include those words.
Mm.
So I called my friend Rick and I was talking to him and I said, this is the stupidest thing. This is pointless. We know we can write. What the hell do we need to write 100-word stories about some stupid point?
Mm-hmm.
He said, I agree. He says, what would you think about writing for children? And a light bulb went on. Oh my gosh. That could be huge. We could tell stories to children that would last forever. Now you think of Aesop's fables. I mean, this goes back hundreds of years. You think of Aesop's fables and the impact that they've had on lots and lots of children.
Yep.
Those stories are typically more than 100 words, but not much more than 100 words. They're pretty compact, and they've got really interesting characters to remember.
Yeah.
So there's a precedent for it. But a couple hundred years ago, they started these drabbles. And Rick said, let's make them for kids. So our first probably month, we created stories just kind of to practice on kids. And it would end with, and Bobby said to Susie, thank you so much for helping me. That didn't really teach a whole lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we were talking one day and he says, you know what's missing in education today? I said, what's that? He says, character. Oh my gosh. So being the researcher that I am, I dug in and started researching around the world to see where character is actually being taught. Now, when I was a kid, bear in mind I'm a little older than maybe most of the listeners, but when I was a kid, when you went to elementary school, the first thing you were taught was respect.
Yes.
Right. And the reason Mrs. So-and-so taught you respect was because if she couldn't get you to respect her, that class was in chaos. Absolute chaos.
Nobody's gonna learn.
You're gonna wind up sleeping on your blankie for 30 minutes or some stupid thing. And so respect was the first thing you learned. And then as you went through the different grades, they taught honesty and they taught kindness and they taught, responsibility and other things. So we kind of learned it that way. But today, it's not being taught.
Yes.
Not in elementary school, junior school, high school, not even in college. Nobody sees it as something that's important. Now, if you don't believe me, I'm going to say this, and I apologize in advance, but it's my observation that those kids that are coming out of the mill that are between 20 and 36, I'm sorry, but a good many of them do not understand the word respect.
Yep.
They do not understand the word responsibility. They do not understand the word kindness.
Yeah.
They don't understand the word
Patience.
gratitude. I mean, patience, anything. It's just, in fact, if you want to know whether or not somebody's really understood character,
alert from messages. Margaret Rawson.
Somewhere where somebody over here is talking and they're going on and going on. And when they finish, you say to your friend, clearly, that person never learned. And whatever's at the end of that ellipsis is a character trait. They didn't learn respect. They didn't learn responsibility or kindness or joy or whatever it is. So anyway, we took that challenge and we said, well, let's write stories that are 100 words that teach a character at the end. Kindness, respect, responsibility, whatever it is. And so we started doing that. And I said, we need to write a book. He says, well, we're already published authors. I said, yeah, that's true, but we're not published authors in children's works. Now, that wasn't exactly true. I had written a children's book. It wasn't well received, and I did a very poor job with it. I didn't understand it. And so I just took it off the market. but I've published other things, and so Rick had as well. And I said, yeah, we're published authors, but we need credibility. So let's write a book. We'll do one a month for 12 months and write this book, and we'll put 31 stories in there, one for each day. Now, you're a father. I'm sure you probably read to your daughter.
Yes, I do.
I had 6 kids. I used to start out reading to one. By the time I got to the next one, I was already late. By the time I got to the third one, it was worse. By the time I got to the fourth one, I was half asleep when I'm reading the story. And I got to the 6th one, they were already asleep, missed the whole thing. I said, that's just ridiculous. And so when we came up with the idea of writing these books, I said, let's put 31 stories in there, 31 100-word stories. It takes approximately 43 seconds to read the story.
Yes.
Well, that's too quick, some critics would say. What can they possibly learn in that? Well, it depends upon what you say next. The problem with the longer story is you read it, the kid's probably fallen asleep, and you've moved on. And what really happened? Nothing. I told Rick, I said, we're in the memory business. And if you take the time after that story and reflect on it and talk to your child. Well, let me ask you, Bobby, have you ever seen anybody be kind to another person? You have. What did they do? Are you kind? Are you kind to your mother? I'm not going to ask about me, but are you kind to your mother and your sister, your brother? So whatever you want to ask, what the point is, it's a reflective question. And that creates memories. So these moments create memories. Now, by the way, a story is told in moments. But told well, it can create a memory.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that, because some people don't know that stories are told in moments. And I'm happy that you've dropped in 2 examples there that were specific moments that someone can easily relate to because they've been in such a situation. But as far as today is concerned, the goal was to highlight 3, and you have highlighted 3 areas that storytellers, story warriors, story weavers can go tell their story to reach a new market, to reach a new audience, to find someone that would appreciate their work. And just to summarize, we've talked about the power of using Medium, which is monetizable, but not a lot of money, but you can create influence from there to reach other people.
Correct.
We've talked about Substack, which is a derivative of Medium, but offers a little bit more. And the last one is, if I remember well, you talked about TinyTales Land, which is also a new exposition of yours, telling stories about character, telling stories about how young people can learn to become better in community, because no school is teaching that. And I just want to ask one final word. How many people is TinyTales Land reaching now? I know this has been ongoing for about 2, 3, 4 years.
No, it's only been going since April of last year.
Okay, so how many people has it reached?
Oh, it's in thousands. I couldn't tell you exactly. I get a report every week that says, this week we're up 200%. Last week we were up 300%. It's all good stuff.
Is it already making some money? Because people may say, okay, I can tell my story. How can I make money with it? Is it TinyTales Land already making some money? If not, maybe it's well on its way, but is it making money already?
Well, Rick asked me when we started, he said, do you think our books will make any money? I said, not a penny. He said, what? I said, not a penny. I said, it's just going to tell people that we know how to write a book. And it's available to them if they want to buy it. We've had a number of them bought, and we've given away a number of them. It's okay. It's totally okay. The long-term strategy is that We want to provide an edutainment website, which is TinyTales Land. We have over 500 stories that can be read anytime to a child. We have games on there. We have family games that, when played, bond the family together. Crossword puzzles, search puzzles. We have events you can do, like, did you ever think about climbing Mount Everest? Well, you can go on our website and stand on the top of Mount Everest and look around. You know, we were thinking, when we started working on this, I got to thinking globally, because I've spent my life traveling around the world and had international companies. And I was thinking about all these kids that are poor, homeless, kids that don't have much money, countries where they don't have a lot of money. And I was thinking about, how do we get our stories into these people? And then I thought about people in hospitals and shut-ins. Kids are disabled and they can't go outside and enjoy the things that other kids. So we wanted to reach all of those people. And then we wanted to reach people no matter what language they spoke. So we made the site available in 100 languages. So just about anything you speak, you can convert our site to that. So the question was, have we made any money? The answer to that question is, I don't think I've made enough to take my wife to a really nice dinner.
Okay.
But where are we going? Recently, we were picked up by the Las Vegas television network to do TinyTales TV. We have 15 episodes that we're going to be doing, and that will generate a revenue, and even more revenue when they start the syndication. And then that same person just recently acquired the former ESPN Studios in Las Vegas. And so we're going to do a mini show there. We're going to do an hour-long show called Grandpa Tells Tiny Tales Live. 100 seats, kids and their parents can come in. We'll use kids from the audience. We'll read stories to them. And as I begin to read the story, it automatically works into a video story.
Oh, and I think right here on the Story Warrior podcast, we want to offer ourselves as maybe moderators or maybe a host of that event, so that before Grandpa tells, before all the children get to listen, they get to hear from one of the tellers from far, far, far away, and get to introduce this amazing idea of Story Warriors at Work. And then we can record a session from there to show the world that the founders of TinyTales Land are Story Warriors at work, by telling their life. After you spend almost a year and a half or so of preparation, it shows that storytellers with ideas, they can conquer the world. Now you're getting picked up by TV. So I just want to thank you so much for the time, because it takes a lot of time to come and sit in and talk. We've spent 30 minutes and want to keep this segment at 30 minutes each. But thank you so much for shedding light on Medium, Substack, and TinyTales Land, which is getting picked up by TV and subsequently syndication. So storytellers, watch out for TinyTales Land and where they're going to reach your children, wherever they may be, to learn powerful values that will carry them through life. Thank you so much, dear R. I really appreciate your time, sir.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.